April 2019 was kind of a weird month for Legends. We had our first ever GT banner, another Broly, and somehow a ridiculously broken Ribrianne that came out of nowhere and turned PvP into her own playground. So let's go back and take a look at all of that in today's Legends History episode. The month of April started with Legends' first April Fool event, a Nappa Day celebration. Every day you could get Nappa Day tickets that you could then use in a banner with just Saibamans and Nappa characters. They then dropped a Nappa version of the Let's Fight event, and they also gave a cool Nappa Scoundrel accessory for Charlotte. Like, honestly, not bad for an April Fool celebration, especially the first one in the game's history. 2 days later and we got a new Ultra Space Time banner, introducing the first wave of GT characters into the game. So we were now one step closer to having Super Saiyan 4 Goku and Vegeta in Legends. As for the new units, GT Super Saiyan Goku was a green range type unit, and from the start of battle, Goku got 40% blast damage and reduced the cost of his blast cards by 15 for 60 timer counts, which was basically the entire duration of most PvP fights back then. So yeah, this was already looking pretty good. Then every time he drew a blast card, he got an extra 15% damage for 15 timer counts, buffs that stacked pretty fast and made him snowball ridiculously hard. His green card then converted all of his strike cards into blast cards, while also giving him even more blast buffs, which made him work pretty well with LF's percent to Gohan, who was still the hardest hidden range type unit in the game. His blue cards then boosted his blast damage for another 15 timer counts, and his main ability increased his card draw speed twice, once for 5 timer counts and again for 15 timer counts. So for his first 5 timer counts, that guy had his card draw speed increased twice, which was just insane. Like bro, honestly this guy was just absolutely crazy offensively, but that's pretty much all he had. Like he was the definition of a glass cannon. GT Super Saiyan Vegeta was a yellow blast type unit, and probably the best of the three when it came to overall utility. Every time he entered the battlefield, he instantly raised the enemy's strike card cost by 3, reduced their Q recovery when they used strike cards, and started stacking blast buffs whenever he fired his own blast arts. He basically punished you for trying to play aggressively, while setting himself up to hit harder and harder with every card. His green card then applied a team-wide 25% debuff to all enemies' blast defense, combined that with his main ability, which inflicted 40% blast damage received and reduced the enemy's healing by 80%, and you could deplete opponents who relied on sustain like Zamasu fairly easily. Like the regen team was just ridiculous at the time, so this was just so good to have. He even delayed enemies' switch outs with a +5 substitution count debuff, which meant once you caught someone in a combo, they weren't escaping, which made him an absolute nightmare to face in PvP. Like literally every single unit who could lock your opponent in. By the time his kit stacked all of its effects, Vegeta could literally one combo almost any unit in the game if you had enough blast cards in your hand, or set GT Super Saiyan Goku to do it even better. And thanks to him holding 2 blast cards, he made that entire team flow seamlessly. Vegeta was honestly just amazing. Hyper Middle Rildo was the first real GT villain in Legends, and one of the tankiest melee units released at the time. He was a red strike type unit, and while he didn't have an established team to thrive in yet, his kit was still pretty stacked. When he entered the battlefield, he gained 50% strike damage for 20 timer counts, completely ignored cover damage reduction and nullified revive abilities, meaning opponents like Zamasu or characters with survival mechanics couldn't cheat death against him. That alone made him an early counter to regen heavy teams. His main ability then drew a strike card, restored 40 ki and gave him 40% damage for 20 timer counts, while giving all of his strike cards a 70% chance to inflict heavy bleed, most often times than not, forcing them to switch out their character. His passive restored 10% HP every time he switched out, and made him immune to all abnormal conditions, like poison or paralysis, giving him great survivability in longer matches. He was also one of the first characters who could directly nullify sustained damage cut effects, which was huge in an era where units like Zamasu relied on it to survive. It was clear that this guy was made specifically to target the regen meta. His only real downside was that the GT tag didn't have much synergy yet, so despite his power, he didn't have a solid home. Most players at the time ran him on monocolor teams. The banner also had an extreme Trunks, who was a green support type unit. He restored Ki when swapped out, boosted allies blast damage by 30%, and healed GT and Hybrid Saiyan allies by 15% when using his main ability. He even shortened their switch count by 5, which was surprisingly good for rotating through combos faster. And on defeat, he gave allies an extra 25% blast buff, making him a pretty decent support option for a new GT team. He was, without question, one of the strongest extreme type units in the game at the time, and a must-have for anyone looking to build the first version of the GT team. But even though all of the new units were pretty good, this was the first banner to have every old Sparkin on it. Like, up until that point, Ultra Space Time banners had the new Sparkin characters featured on it, and maybe one or two old Sparkin characters. But this banner had every single Sparkin unit up to Kel and Caulifla on it, which was just horrible if you wanted the new units. So the chances of you pulling one of the new characters were significantly worse. So most players prefer to skip that banner. And yeah, now that I think about it, this is probably why it felt like it was easier to pull new units back then, because it actually was. Alongside the new banner, they also added the book 7 of the part 3 of the story mode, continuing Charlotte's adventure. We also had a new PvP season with a brand new red equipment that boosted strike damage by up to 27.5%, which was just insane for red melee type units, even though it was obviously pretty niche. That new PvP season also introduced the first ever honorable title, a title only the first place player could get. A week later, Legends dropped another mid-sized update. It brought back the Legends Road Trunks event with some new equipments, a purple/future defensive equip that boosted blast and strike defense by up to 18% and base health by up to 10%. Like, it wasn't a top tier equip, but for pure tanks or glass cannons that needed survivability, it had some value. The classic Legends Road Universal equip made a return, a must-have equip for Legends Road units as it gave them max base health, and of course the Extreme and Blue equip, offering a massive 25% boost to both strike and blast attacks, plus a 12% health buff. Like, this was just a must farm, especially since some PvE events required full extreme only teams, making triple copies of that equip essential. On top of that, Bandai added a title reward for completing Legends Road missions, giving players something a little extra to grind. Oh, and the event was also bugged on release. Players noticed that some Z-Power options were missing in the exchange shop. You could only exchange bronze medals for Trunks' Z-Power, while the options for silver and gold medals simply didn't appear. Bandai quickly confirmed it was a visual bug and confirmed that some CC were on the way as compensation once that bug would be fixed. The Ultra Spacetime Rush got an expansion too, adding a 4th floor to the tower. With it came a brand new equipment awakening, this time for an equip that was exclusive to Green Saiyans, obviously designed for Green Vegeta. Another big part of the update was the new Cell event, introducing multiple new equipments, and a new title, the Ultimate Life Form, which leveled up as you cleared event missions, giving up to 50 blast defense at rank 10. As for the new equipments, the first one increased both strike and blast defense, plus boosted special move damage, so it was pretty decent, but this equip would have obviously been much better if it gave max health instead of special move damage, but I guess farming one copy couldn't hurt. The second one was more of a defensive equip with up to 25% blast defense and 15% strike defense. It was another solid but niche equip, mostly useful for range type Saiyans who needed survivability against purple heavy teams. The second half of April brought a pretty unexpected banner, introducing Ribrianne and Great Saiyaman 2 into the game. At first glance, the banner looked like your typical filler banners, but that couldn't be further from the truth, because Ribrianne ended up being one of the strongest characters in the entire game on release, turning the female warrior tag into arguably the best team in the game overnight. Blue Ribrianne was a defensive type unit, but you wouldn't have guessed it from her stats, because her strike attack was through the roof. She was tanky while also being able to hit insanely hard. Her main ability drew her ultimate arts card and inflicted no switching for 10 time recounts. That alone made her one of the scariest units in PvP, because once she caught you in a combo, you were pretty much dead. Her first unique ability reduced damage received by 30% every time she entered the battlefield, and debuffed all enemies, making them take more strike damage damage even the ones on the bench, making her a perfect partner for other strike-based female warriors like Pen or Caulifla. Her second unique ability gave her 30% strike damage every time an ally was defeated, and if that ally was a female warrior tag unit, she got an extra 25% on top of that, meaning that if she was the last one alive, she could get up to 110% strike damage just from that passive alone. Combine that with her tankiness and you had a last man standing monster. Then her blue card had a 50% chance to paralyze, and her ultimate had a 70% chance to paralyze while destroying 3 enemy cards on hit. Her green card debuffed the entire enemy team with 30% damage received for 25 timer counts, which made her allies hit even harder. She also held 2 strike cards, had massive base stats, and fit perfectly into any female warrior team. Ribrianne was easily a top 5 unit in the game when she first dropped, and easily the strongest female warrior at the time. Red Great Saiyaman 2 was a melee type unit. Her main ability, drew a green card, reduced her card cost and gave her 15% damage inflicted for 20 timer counts. Her first unique ability gave her 40% strike damage against Lineage of Evil tag units, and her second unique ability gave her 10% damage inflicted per battle member and 15% more for each purple ally on the team, making her perfect for mono purple setups, alongside Purple Broly and the Great Saiyaman 1 we'll talk about later. She also nullified attribute downgrades up to 3 times and gained bonus skill recovery. Her green card increased her card draw speed, letting her chain combos longer, and her blue card lowered the enemy's card draw speed on hit. Overall, she wasn't broken, but she was a solid addition to both the female warriors and purple heavy teams, and could absolutely destroy any Frieza unit she came across. Finally, Extreme Green Bulma. She was a support type unit who could easily compete with Spark and tier supports thanks to her green card. It restored 50 ki, reduced the enemy's ki by 50, and drew a blast card, while randomly granting one of 3 effects: 30% blast damage, 50% crit chance, or 70% chance to paralyze on blast hits. Just an insane green card. Her unique abilities then gave her 40% damage inflicted on entry, and another 40% blast damage if she had a female warrior ally. On top of that, her blast cards cost were reduced from 20 to 15, making her extremely efficient and combo friendly. Like that girl paired perfectly with Ribrianne as a support type option. For an extreme unit, she was insanely good. Legends also dropped a new Legends Road event, where you could farm a new free-to-play Purple Great Saiyaman 1. He was a hybrid Saiyan and Sun family unit, making him extremely versatile for a free-to-play character. His main ability, drew a blue card, restored 50 ki, boosted his damage by 30% for 20 timer counts, and gave his next blue card a 35% chance to faint, which was actually crazy for a free unit. His first unique ability then gave him 15% damage inflicted per battle member and another 15% per transforming warrior tag unit on the team, which was actually a terrible condition, as most transforming warriors characters didn't really work that well with him. His second unique ability then nullified attribute downgrades up to 3 times and increased his ki recovery by 30%, which was pretty decent. He held 2 blast cards and had a solid green card that reduced enemy's ki by 35 and drew a new card, which made him pretty great at keeping momentum. Overall, he was easily one of the best free-to-play units Legends had ever released up to that point. Not that they released that many free-to-play units, but yeah, he was right up there with the other Legends Road characters. The event also introduced 2 brand new equips, both actually really good for the time. The first one was exclusive to Legends Road characters and gave them up to 15% strike damage, 30% special move damage, and up to 8% blast defense per Legends Road ally. So on a full Legends Road setup, it could give up to 24% blast defense. The second one offered up to 15% strike defense, 18% blast defense, and 15% blast attack. A very balanced equipment that was good for characters from the Transforming Warrior tag. Legends also launched part 4 of the main story, adding book 1 and introduced new daily login bonuses that scaled depending on how far you had progressed in the story. They also started a new PvP season, which added a new Transforming Warrior exclusive equipment that boosted both strike and blast attack by up to 15%. Right after the Legends Road Great Saiyaman event, the April V-Jump Leagues dropped, and this time it gave us a first glance at the next Ultra Space Time banner. It was going to feature a new middle cooler and another legendary Super Saiyan Broly. I generally do not know what it was with Legends and Broly, but They just like that guy so much. The next day, Dragon Ball Legends SNS account had just reached 300,000 followers, so they were going to give 100 Chrono Crystals every day for 3 days, so a total of 300 Chrono Crystals to celebrate 300,000 SNS followers. A few days later, and it was time for a new Legends Rising banner, featuring Super Sentry Gotenks, Super Buu, and Extreme Lord Slug. Super Sentry Gotenks was a yellow mini-type unit. His ultimate arts card had a chance to faint that increased based on how many allies were still alive, meaning that the earlier you used it, the higher the chance to stun your opponent was. By the way, this ultimate arts card was bugged for almost a year. The 3 battle member chance wasn't 70%, but actually just guaranteed. Like you had a 100% chance to faint. But I guess since the chance was already so high, nobody suspected that it was actually bugged. Then his green card immobilized the enemy and gave him the perfect setup for combos, making him an absolute menace once he gained momentum. He also had a cover change mechanic that reduced incoming damage by 40% and gave him 50% strike damage after activation, but at the cost of increasing his sub count by 2. To top it off, his Z ability was the first to boost the Fusion Warriors tag unit's max base health. That alone made him a must-have on any fusion team. And bro, his ultimate's animation, the Ultra Boo Boo Volleyball, was easily one of the best looking ultimates in the entire game at the time. But Gotenks didn't arrive alone. His nemesis was right there with him. Super Boo was a purple range type unit, and everything in his kit revolved around crippling your enemy by reducing their ki and ki recovery. His blue cards reduced the enemy's ki recovery by 30%, while his ultimate arts card flat out reduced the enemy's ki by 70%. And absolutely crazy debuff at the time. His green card then immobilized the opponent and made them take 25% more damage, setting up deadly combos for himself or his regen allies. His first unique ability restored 40% of his vanishing gauge every time the opponent switched characters, while also giving him 30% damage and 30% Q recovery. This meant that every time your opponent tried to escape him, Buu just got stronger. His second unique ability triggered after 25 timer counts and completely crippled the enemy's team. They took 30% more damage, got a 50% health regen debuff, and the cost of all of their arts card was increased by 5 for 45 timer counts. That combination was brutal and basically acted as a counter to the regen team, or any team that relied on sustainability, as it basically shut down their entire sustain. It was one of the most toxic kits in Legends at the time. Buu could turn any match into a slow, suffocating grind where the opponent could barely play, and all you had to do was survive 25 timer counts. The easiest thing to do with the regen team that was just filled with extremely tanky units. Then there was Extreme Lord Slug. He was a green defense type unit, clearly designed to be a mini support for the regen tag. His special move reduced the enemy's ki recovery by 40%, while his main ability restored 30 ki and boosted his ki recovery by 40%, and reduced all allies' special move cost by 10 for 30 timer counts. A small but pretty useful buff. His first unique ability randomly destroyed an enemy's card every time they entered the battlefield, while also increasing his own Vanish Ghost recovery speed by 50%, letting him dodge faster and interrupt enemies' combos. His second unique ability gave him 48% damage when he entered the battlefield, which vanished once hit, meaning as long as he didn't get hit, he had a 40% damage buff, which wasn't bad as you could switch him up into a combo and you were guaranteed to keep it at least until that combo ended. For an extreme unit, he was honestly pretty decent. We also had a new Yamcha event that day, where we could farm a new baseball Yamcha, who was actually surprisingly good. Purple Yamcha was a mini-type fighter who got stronger with every home run you landed. Like, this was generally such a cool concept and idea. Then his blue cards dealt major impact damage and destroyed all of the enemy's strike cards on hit, so a pretty crazy blue card. His main ability drew a green card and made all enemies' strike arts cards cost 99 for 10 timer counts, basically forcing the enemy to use a blast arts card so that you could counter them with his green cards, because yes, his green cards countered the enemy's tap attacks or blast attacks and increased his home run count by 1. And that's where his kit went from funny to actually ridiculous. His first unique ability made him scale with his home run count. The more home runs he scored, the stronger he got. At 1 home run, he gained faster card draw speed. At 2, he increased the enemy's strike cost. By 3 and 4, he got massive crit rate boosts and even more card draw speed. And if you somehow reached 7 home runs, he gained 100% rise and rush damage, instantly got 7 Dragon Balls, and even nullified endurance effects. Like, bro, if you played that guy right, he could genuinely look monstrous. Like, it was insane. His second unique ability then just gave him even more home runs, so you didn't even have to counter 7 times to unlock his full passive. Since the fewer allies he had left, the more home runs he gained per counter. If no one was defeated, he'd gain 1 per counter, with 1 ally down, he'd gain 2, and with 2 allies down, he'd gain 3. So by the end of a fight, he could go from a joke to a genuine clutch unit if the game dragged long enough. His Z ability then boosted Super Warrior's max health, which as far as I remember, made him a must bench unit for that tag, which was pretty frustrating as I'm pretty sure it took some time for this guy to come back, but I might be mixing things up with like another unit. I'm not sure. Anyways, you could also unlock his uniform costume, his bat accessory, and even farm 2 exclusive equips from his event, and clearing all missions rewarded an exclusive title. But what really made this event special was the new battle type, the home run battles. These weren't normal fights. You could only use Yamcha, and all of your arts cards were replaced with green cards. The goal was to time your counters perfectly against the enemy's pitches to send them flying. It was essentially just like a reaction minigame, and it was honestly one of the most creative ideas Legends ever had. The event also came with a huge update that changed PvP forever. Disconnecting opponents would now be replaced with AI, and matches that ran out of time were decided by total damage dealt instead of just ending in a draw. That change alone fixed one of the biggest problems of PvP at the time. The month ended with a new Ultra Spacetime Summon banner that was teased earlier that month. Legendary Super Saiyan Broly was the clear headliner and was a green defense type unit, and like every Broly in Legends, he was just crazy. His green card was the highlight of his entire kit. It nullified almost every type of attack except certain ultimates. A Rising Rush knocked enemies back on hit and boosted the special move by 50%. It even reduced the next damage he took by 20%, making it both a defensive and offensive tool in one move. Like, this was essentially just a counter on crack. His main ability then gave him a blue card, reduced its cost by 15, and granted 40% strike damage for 25 timer counts, giving him serious damage potential, despite being labeled as a defensive unit. He also had a strong cover change ability, reducing the damage he received by 50% and even knocked the enemy back to long range if he countered a strike card. On top of that, it inflicted the enemy with an 80% key recovery debuff, completely killing off their combo potential. He wasn't quite as dominant as Purple Broly, but was still a very good unit, and definitely in the top 10 or even 5 at a time, just because of his green card and cover change. Like, his ability to stop combos was just insane, and the fact that this guy could tank a Rising Rush without having some sort of endurance was pretty impressive for the time. Red Metal Cooler was also a defense type unit. His main ability healed the entire team by 20%, cancelled all debuffs, and cleared abnormal conditions, something only a handful of characters could do at a time. When he entered the battlefield, he restored his own HP by 5%, gained 30% damage, and recovery for 15 timer counts, and destroyed one random enemy card. The buffs maybe looked small, but it definitely added up over the course of a fight. His second unique ability punished aggressive players by raising the cost of every strike or blast card the opponent used by 3. It made him a direct counter to rush heavy teams that relied on long combo chains. He also had one of the most valuable Z abilities of the time, 26% blast defense to Lineage of Evil tag units, as it essentially finally gave that tag a proper defensive Z ability. While Cooler didn't single-handedly make the Lineage of Evil top tier again, he gave them exactly what they needed: longevity, healing, and disruption, turning what was once a purely offensive tag into something far more flexible. He was also pretty decent in the regen team. Even though the tag was already stacked with units like Zamasu, Buu, or Cell, he was still an interesting new option. The last new addition was a Purple Extreme Videl, a solid defensive support type unit for the female warrior tag. Her special move increased the enemy's strike cards by 20 on hit, while her main ability boosted her own damage by 30%. Cut enemy key by 40, and lowered their card draw speed by 1 level. Her unique ability healed 50% of her HP every time she switched out, up to 3 times, cancelled her debuffs, and supported her allies with 10% damage every time the enemy used a card. She wasn't meta defining, but she helped female warriors stay relevant alongside Ribrianne and Great Saiyaman 2, who released earlier that month. This banner also brought back the usual guaranteed sparking ticket system, which meant players could earn free tickets from login bonuses and events to guarantee get a sparking full after 7 days, which was pretty good for this banner. To wrap up the month, we had a Happy Legends Week campaign, which I'm pretty sure was just Legends version of Dokkan's Golden Week. It started with a 21-day special login bonus campaign that gave out skip tickets, energy, training items, zenny, and a total of 500 Chrono Crystals, which was pretty solid for the time. Then they dropped missions that rotated weekly. Completing them rewarded Chrono Crystals and energy tickets. And also, during Happy Legends Week, EXP was doubled across all story modes, zenny was multiplied by 5, and training time was cut in half while still given 2 times EXP. Like, this was insane. Adventures also took half the normal time. This was one of the best opportunities to level up units and farm resources. And finally, for brand new players, Bandai released a Super Saiyan triple set in the shop, a one-time purchase that gave 300 Z power for Super Saiyan Goku, Vegeta, and Trunks, plus 30 silver bells. I honestly don't remember the cost of that pack, but it probably just wasn't worth it, as all of those cards were pretty much outdated by now. But yeah, this was honestly a pretty crazy first year for Legends. It's true that power creep got kind of crazy near the end of the year, but honestly, if you had just pulled Broly, you were honestly good up until the anniversary. And talking about the anniversary, yeah, this is what I'll be covering in the next Legends history video, if it ever sees the light of day, as honestly this kind of video format is pretty niche, and I don't really see any like growth potential from it. Like, if I'm being honest, I really want to try and make this channel like profitable this upcoming year, and those videos are unfortunately just not it. But if they do numbers, I'll definitely continue the series. But if they don't, yeah, then I'm sorry to disappoint you guys, but we'll have to let it go. But yeah, that was about it for today. Thanks to everyone who supported and watched the series up until this point, and I'll hopefully catch you in the next video, whether it's a Legends History one or not. Take care, peace.